everybody. This is Corporal Kindle, and today I will be playing a game called Stars in Shadow, which is a 4X sci-fi space game developed by Ashtar Games out of Canada. I recently bought the game earlier this week. I've played it maybe, I'm guessing roughly 4 hours or so. I played with several of the races. I started on the highest level of difficulty and got smashed pretty bad, so I've reduced down to hard. I enjoy playing of the hardest difficulty because I'm a glutton for punishment. I also like to use my brain. I like to be challenged in a game. I don't want to play easiest and restart. I don't do the restart. Whatever happens will happen, whether I win or lose. That's how I play. First of all, I wanted to talk a little. This also, by the way, happens to be my very first YouTube video, and I've ran into some problems. I actually just last night watched a how-to on how to set up a YouTube video, and I'm actually following the advice on how to set it up. So the problem I ran into last night is I had the sound and everything worked out, but my video did not. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So this video is going to be a little bit on a couple of different things. It's not just going to be only the game, but I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the setup of how to set up a YouTube for others, so that others don't, fall into the same pitfalls that I did setting up the on the OBS software and running into a situation where things don't work like they should and eating up a lot of time unnecessarily. First, I want to say a little bit about my gaming biography. I've been playing strategy games since I was probably 8 years old, 8, 9. My very first strategy game was a game called The Third Reich, developed by the Avalon Hill Game Company, which was a grand strategy World War II game based on quarterly turns. Probably the best grand strategy World War II game ever made. The modern version of that particular game is made by a company called GMT, and it's called A World at War. Other games I played, board games, Panzer Blitz, Advanced Squad Leader. That's where my username comes from, Corporal Kindle. I actually play tested the original ASL game back in '85 when it got converted from SL to ASL, and they made a counter for me, a 7-0 leader counter for any of you that are in the ASL tactical World War II games as I am. ASL is probably the greatest tactical level World War II game out there, and probably also the most complicated. I also played games called Titan and Twilight Imperium, which is another good board game for the 4X space genre. And probably the original precursor to Mu is a game called Stellar Conquest, made by Metagaming back in '84. Very, very similar in concepts to Mu. As far as PC games, which I've been playing mostly the past couple of decades, probably 95% PC games and maybe 5% board games, just how things worked out. I would divide the category into three large categories: contemporary, sci-fi, and fantasy. Fantasy being magic and Lord of the Rings type genre, where space is going to be Star Trek, out in space ships. Contemporary, when I use the word contemporary, I'm talking about Earth-based games like Civilization. Probably the greatest 4X game and most widely known is the Civilization series made by Sid Meier's. It's currently in version 6. The original one came out in '91. Number 2 is '96. Number 3 is '01. Number 4, '05. Number 5 in 2010. And number 6 just recently came out last year in 2016. I played all of them, though I haven't played the last version yet. Colonization, also made by Sid Meier's, a great game, a great contemporary 4X game for those of you who know. I like that just as much as Civilization. This focuses more, those focus more on the colonization of the New World, which is cool. Imperialism, another great game that came out in '97 and number 2 in '99. A game that I wish that they would renovate and create a new game. And then, of course, There was the very first original 4X game out there, Interstellar Empire, 1987. I can still remember spending many years playing that on a PS2 back then. As far as fantasy games, there's the original Masters of Magic, also created by Micropose. It came out in '94. Another great 4X game in the fantasy. And of recently, Dominions 3, 4, and 5 is going to come out next year. A great fantasy 4X game. Endless Legend and Elemental War of Magic. Those are ones I recently played. Now to the sci-fi genre 4X games. Everybody knows about Master of Orion 2. 3 came out in '96, and it was a huge letdown. It just basically created a completely different game that wasn't Master of Orion. Master of Orion 4 came out recently. Last year. It was called Conquer the Stars, which I have also purchased, and it was a huge improvement over the number 3, which was a big letdown. And of course, there's Stars with a colon. Came out in '95. It was the artwork wasn't too great, but it was a really good 4X game. And then there's Space Empires. Space Empires came out in '97, 2000, and '06 for 3, 4, and 5. Originally produced by Malfador and taken over by Strategy First. The only thing I didn't like, that was a good strategy 4X space game, but it had used wormhole movement as opposed to... I just don't like the whole wormhole movement where you're limited to hyperlanes, although the game was good. So that's a little bit of my background game biography. And the next thing I'll talk a little bit about what 4X games are for those of you that have no clue what 4X is. 4X is a genre of strategy games. Those are games that use your brain as opposed to hand-eye coordination. And the 4X's stand for expansion, exploitation, extermination, and exploration. Usually in games like this, the maps start completely grayed out and you start with one little space. So that's where your exploration comes in. You're moving your units around on the board and uncovering the clouded areas on the map. In space games, you'll see a bunch of stars, but you won't know what's at the stars. Out there are other alien nations which are trying to do you in. Extermination, of course, you need to do them in before they do you in, and that's where the extermination comes in. Expansion, of course, you want to colonize more planets, more land, move the frontier and your national boundaries out. That's where the expansion comes in. Exploitation, a very important concept. That comes from the idea of exploiting resources. These could be iron ore, farming to feed your people, and of course science is an important resource. In 4X games, you do not want to be the guy that's sitting there in the Stone Age when the other man has gunpowder. You don't want to be trying to shoot bows against arquebusiers or guys armed with culverins, or you don't want to be the man in the Stone Age who, throwing stones with a trebuchet against an opponent that has 155 millimeter howitzers. You're just going to be done in very, very quickly. So with that being said, let's move a little bit to the game. Before that, I did want to talk about the setup for the OBS. In order, for those of you that are thinking about doing a YouTube video, I'll ultimately talk a few minutes about that. My system, in order to do that, I had to get a little bit of freeware. The main thing was a free download called OBS, Open Broadcasting Software, which is used for sound and video recording. I also had Audacity, which is a freeware that's used for sound devices. As an aside, I haven't had to use for YouTube, but I do recommend Inkscape, GIMP, and Blender for those of you that are creating art. I am actually in the process of designing some games which I plan on putting on a Kickstarter project, and I've used all those, although I have, over the past years, updated to Adobe Creative Cloud, took the plunge and purchased that. I'm also using a Razer Carcarius headset and mic for this, although there are a lot of options for that. The setup, I ran into some problems yesterday with the video did not turn out the way I had. A whole hour. I generated a whole game. I had a great setup, and of course, there was a huge lag in the video, and I couldn't figure out why. So I went back, and after determining the problems I had to change my video resolution from down to 1280 to 720 from my current system, which is set up for 1920 by 1080. I'm using a large screen monitor because I'm not as young as I used to be, and my eyes, frankly, just aren't that good. The 1280 by 720 is a smaller scale resolution. It has the effect of using less CPU utilization, having smaller file size versus what's needed for the larger scale. In addition, I had to change the video bit rate from the 2000 and increase that to 4000. So what I saved in resolution by in the video by scaling down the video resolution is, I replaced by using a larger frame rate, which will increase the responsiveness and speed. And that my I did a test earlier today, and that seemed to work well. So for those of you that are going to set up a video, I recommend doing that, setting up your file so that it uses a 1280 by 720 instead of the higher resolution, and using your bit rate to 4000 BPS or FPS. That's bits per second or frames per second. I'm also recording this in using MP4 format, and that's because MP4 is a wider availability that can be used in more editing software as opposed to FIV. The audio sampling rate is set to 44.1 kilohertz, which was the default. That seemed to work okay. Channels in stereo. Under the the audio setup, I had the desktop audio devices default. There's six settings that are set for this. The first one, desktop audio devices set to default. Second, desktop audio devices 2 disabled. Mic auxiliary audio devices, I had it set to microphone Realtek audio, which is my speaker system, as Realtek. The next one is the mic auxiliary audio device 2 disabled, and then mic audio auxiliary device 3 disabled. So those are those settings. The video-based canvas resolution, as I said, was 1280 by 720. And when I set up the file under OBS, I had created a new profile, and I called it just 1280 by 720 stars and shadow. And then the file settings were saved for this particular profile. So if I set up a YouTube for a different game, for example, if I do Dominions in the future, I'll create a user profile for that game. That's only. So the key things that I that didn't work for the settings yesterday, and I found that did work was to set the resolution down to 1280 by 720 instead of using my higher 1920 by 1080. Even though my system is more than able to use that. That's point one. And point two was to set the sampling rate to up to 4,000 from 2,000. So I doubled it. I doubled it on a smaller resolution, so that increased the responsiveness. I also want to mention that my computer system is basically brand new. It's less than a year old. I recently replaced my old computer. It's a Windows 10 64-bit system, 3 gigahertz microprocessor, Intel IS7400, and I got 12 GB of RAM, it's not top of the line. I would say maybe a little bit above average. It's newness making it a little bit above average because it's a brand new computer. And I have over one hard drive space of 1 terabyte, which should be more than enough for any of the large files that are going to be developed and that I'm going to be developing as a result of this YouTube. So with that huge introduction, let me now go into the game strategy. As I said, this is a 4X game, which involves strategy and brain power and not hand-eye coordination. So I'm going to be clicking at, oh, by the way, This game just recently came out with a new race. I've had this game. I purchased this game probably 5 or 6 days ago. As of yesterday, they came out with a new first downloaded content called Legacies. You can see down here in the lower left, which added a new race called the Tinkers, which are a android kind of race model, maybe a little bit kind of like the Borg from Star Trek. And I plan on playing with them. You can see it's Ashtar. So I'm going to click under New Game right now. Well, first of all, let me just click under Options just to show you. If I was to click on full screen mode, which I'm going to do, right now it's on winnowized mode. If I click on full screen, it's going to go to full screen mode, showing the tactical grid. The settings, these are pretty straightforward things. There's nothing really new here. I turned the music off so it doesn't conflict with my microphone, although the background sounds are still going, as you can hear when I click the mouse. So I'm going to click, first thing I'll do is click on the full screen mode as opposed to winnowized. Okay, we're on full screen, and I'm going to click Options off and go back to the main thing. I'm going to develop a new game. Too bad I couldn't use the one yesterday. The one I had yesterday, I had the first planet I found a mineral-rich planet. I was so happy. Now I'm going to have to start all over. Anyway, new game. First of all, for people new to this game, we're going to talk a little bit about these different races. There are, as of now, 8 races in the game. There used to be just 7. The new race being down here, the Tinkers. So each one of these races are your alien races that are going to be found in, humanity as being one of them. I'll talk a little bit about each of their pluses and minuses. We got these 2 dinosaur races called the Ashdars. Okay, and to get a little bit of a handle on which one of these races are better or worse, and optimally they would all be about the same. Under a well-developed game that's highly balanced, they're all going to be roughly the same. Call it 45 to 55. One of the things that I look at are these yields. As you can see right down here, we got this line that says colonist yields. We got 3 wrenches, 1 coin, 0.5 a blue thing, that's a beaker, that's science, and we got a 0.5 corn, which is supposed to represent farming. So we got industry, coins for money, which is going to be your marketing power. Your science developed, very important. Like I said, you don't want to be the Neanderthals with bows and arrows against the guys with plasma cannons. You're going to go away real quick. And 0.5 corn. So to get a rough idea of how strong these guys are, these yields are for 1 million inhabitants, or 1 million inhabitants of that particular race. So 1 million of these Ashtar colonials are going to develop 3 wrenches, which is 3 industry, 1 coin, 1 market, 0.5 of a science, and 0.5 food. So a rough gauge of their strength is going to be to sum all these things together. 3 plus 1 plus 0.5 plus 0.5 is 5. 3 plus 1 plus 2 times 0.5 is 5. So we'll call that a 5. These Ashtar Imperials have 2 plus 0.1 plus 0.5 plus 0.5, which is 4.5. The Phi-D have 2 plus 2, or Phi-D, 2 plus 2 plus 0.5, which is 5. The Gremax, 2 plus 1 plus 2 times 1 is 4. The Orthans are 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 0.5, which is 4.5. The Urals, 3 plus 1 plus 2 is 5. The Tinkers, 4 plus 0.5 plus 0.25 is 4.75. And lastly, the Humans, Humanity, 2 plus 1 plus 0.5 plus 1 is 4. So what I'm saying by all that is you got 3 races that have 5. We'll call those the best yields, races with the best yields. Those are going to be the Ashtars, the Phi-D, and the Urals. So their people give you the best yields. The next tier is the Tinkers, which 4.75, most of that being on the wrenches. They do have the lowest science yield, though, which is, that's definitely not too good. You don't want to be behind the curve on science. And then we got 2 that have a 4.5, being the Ashtar Imperials and the Orthans. 4. So they're kind of a little bit below average. And then we got 2 races with 4, being the Grimax and the humans. So, okay, now let me talk a little bit about the other special abilities. All these different races also have special abilities. The Ashtar Colonials, they have, well, right there we got industrious workers, so their workers get a +1. That's why they're at 3 and not 2. In general, the average is 2 wrenches. These guys have 3 because their colonists generate 1 wrench. And they got escort carriers, which are huge. As of right now in this game development, carriers are the most powerful late game unit in the game. So carriers are like if you remember from Master of Orion, plasma cannons were the ultimate weapons. Well, right now, carriers are the ultimate weapons in this game, at least on the few games that I've played, and as much as some of the comments from other U2s. Their fighter wings are hugely powerful, and they got the best carriers, so that puts them to the top, including their 5 yield. Okay, we got the Ashtar Imperials. So what do they got? They got better. Their people generate 0.5 income, so they're getting more income. Income is always a good thing because you can rush by things. And the size of your fleet. Fleet size isn't in 4X games. You require money to pay the cost of upkeep for those fleets and whatever troops you have. So money are very essential to generate large amounts. The larger the fleet, the more money you need to make. There's a correlation there. So what do these Imperials have? They got this ancient Stargate. In Sun Tzu, there's a saying you want to make your enemy, that if you are far away, make your enemy think you are close. The ancient Stargate is the epitome of always making your enemy know that you are close. From the Stargate, their ships can go there to any. You could go across the map in one turn, which is a huge benefit for them. Moving your ships anywhere in a turn is a huge advantage. Space and time. And next we got the Fidi. They're kind of a seahorse race, and they evolved in oceans. So you look, they're going to their home worlds are going to be in an ocean type levels. They are merchant prisoners. They develop 2 coins, which are huge. They got the best money market generating of all the races. They only got 2. They got the average amount of industry, but they got 2 coins. Coins go huge, are huge towards just buying out stuff and supporting larger fleets. Being able to just pay an industry off, buy a lab before it's built is just as good as having industry to build it, if not better. They also have this thing called the mercenary exchange, so they can actually buy troops if they're getting behind on the battlefield and they got a large sum of money that they can just pile into. They can buy troops and ships right away, which is a big advantage for them. It makes them one of the best races, in my opinion. They're probably one of the top 3 races as of now, or the Fidi, the Ashtars, and the Urals, which I'll get to. The Grimac. The Grimacs are a reptile race. They have 4, so they got one of the lowest yields. Nothing special there, 2, 1, 0.5, 0.5. They start off with distortion field, which is cloaked. Their ships are cloaked. That provides a huge one advantage to being cloaked is that your ships basically miss. If somebody fires on a cloaked ships with basic technology, you're not even going to hit them. So they can move. One strategy for them is to load up on boarding modules and marines, move in to an enemy ship, and then board it while cloaked. That could be one, or pile up on powerful short-ranged weapons. Move in, while they're shooting at you, missing you while you're cloaked, and then unload at a close range with your first shot. First shot, 1 kill. They say in the Marine Corps. These people are the best at doing that. And they got these Viper launchers, which are some type of short-range energy torpedo. Probably supposed to be something like the Romulan plasma torpedoes from Star Trek, if you remember. And the next race, we got these orphans. They are bugs. They develop on a frozen ice bowl of a planet, which is kind of, well, that's not very logical. I mean, bugs aren't the type of things that would develop on very cold planets. At least on Earth, they don't live in the cold climates. But this is a sci-fi game, after all. They got academics. They have the best science development. You can see right here they have one. So they got one, everyone else is point 0.5. So they're your science generating race, for those who like that. And their special abilities, heavy artillery. They got some weapons that they're either cheaper or that other races don't have, that are super heavy siege type weapons. So that's probably something like a rail gun or a kinetic weapons. Probably better for orbital bombardment or something. Usually the best things for orbital bombardment I've found are torpedoes and missiles. Especially late game, it gets really tough because the planetary defenses can get really strong. Next, we have the Urals, which are the ones that I've played them a couple of times, and I like them. Up until now, I've liked them the most. I don't know about the Tinkers yet, but I have played with the Urals. Their special advantages: they got hardy colonials. They can colonize most every world. That is already colonizable to them from the start. They get 3 industries, so they build faster than everyone else. Notice they have 1 gold instead of 0.5, so they got a little better industry and gold. They get plus 10 science speakers when researching planetology. So that's going to give them probably 20% cost deduction when researching planetology, which is where all the terraforming. So in addition, they start off colonizing a lot of worlds, and they get terraforming pretty quick, so they can really, really expand. They're the best race as far as expansion in the 4X expansion. The X for expansion. They can do that the best because they can build colony ships and go just about anywhere. And they start in a glacier world, so these guys also start in cold worlds. But like I said, they're the most flexible as they start off with a wide range of planets that they can develop from the get-go, since they got hardy colonists. And the race that I'm going to be playing, Tinkers, the new race. These are your cyborgs or androids, which you wanted to call them. They have a cyborg population, which means they don't need food. They develop 0. You can see right here, they got 4 wrenches, 0 food. So that means that I don't have to worry about building farms. Of course, they'll probably be planning on conquering populations. These populations conquer will probably need farms. So I can't say right offhand that we won't be developing any farms. They also use a lot of mineral. Everything they build uses minerals. By the way, this is industry right here. There's really another resource that's gathered in the game. It's iron or minerals, however you want to call it. The minerals are, in this game, they're not used to build buildings, but they are used to build ships. So, for example, if you wanted to build a ship, you have to have the industry that uses the iron to build the ships. But if you're only building planetary things like buildings, you only need industry. And they got the lowest beakers for science beakers, which is very bad. My plan to overcome that is using the industry to build labs, which I will eventually do to make up for the shortfall in science. And their special ability, they get started with a mobile station. Apparently it's in orbit. It allows them. It's a type of ship, I'm guessing, that I haven't played. I started playing with them yesterday, and these things were developed on asteroids. They're pretty nice. Lastly, we got the humans, which are probably, I want to say, the weakest race in the game. Their yield is 4, which is among the 2 lowest. But the thing about them that makes them really hard to start off with is they don't start on a home world. They actually have to colonize. Everyone else has a planet with 3 buildings on them, with an industry, a mine, and or 2 mines. They usually have 3. We'll have 3 on a building. But the humans actually, not only do they have to colonize the planet, but they have to build those buildings. That's loss. Starting from the get-go, they got a loss of anywhere from 30 to 40 turns, the length of time it takes them not only to find the star, the planet to land on, to develop the buildings to equal where these guys are starting off with. The advantage that they have, though, is they start with 4 transports, 2 colony ships, and they start off with a battle cruiser. Nobody else starts off with a heavy cruiser combat ship except the humans. So under the right set of circumstances, that could be a huge advantage. So the humans are really just subject to luck from the get-go. If they don't find a good planet, they could be really, messed over for the game. But if they find at least a reasonably good planet, they're in the running. They have some bonuses. I think they start with a few more technology levels than everybody else. I actually haven't compared the tech by tech start off versus each one, but I do know that some of the techs that each of these races start off with is a little bit different. For example, the humans start off with boarding stuff. They're good at boarding. You want to get Marines on boarding, and they get some bonuses for that. That's something that's not listed under the special abilities, but it's a really cool ability. Under the right circumstance, if you capture a ship and you can cash it in for science development, you can get technologies. That could be a big beam. They also get +5 when developing beam weapons, which is a little bit of a boost. So that's the advantages and disadvantages of the humans and all the other races. So I'm going to get ready. As I said, I'm going to start with the Tinkers. I'm going to go to map settings. As I also said, I plan on playing hard, and I'm going to go with just a default at 85 systems. That's how I like to play. I don't like playing if you play with a very small world with 2 or 3, it's so easy to beat these AIs on that. And I just, I like I said, I like to play in the harder settings, allowing more races. Even if you defeat a couple of them, the ones that are on the other side of the map have a lot of time to grow and develop. It makes the game harder and more fun, in my opinion. Although it does have the downside of sometimes taking longer later in the game for the turns to go on. So that's how the settings are, and that's what I'm going to choose. So we're going to start. Here we go. Start game. All right. Let's see what we got here. Generating. It takes a little time for the initial generating to take. Since I'm playing on a huge system, the largest map with 85, it actually goes up to 99. You can play with more than 99, but it gives you a warning that there may be some problems, so I've never went past 99. It looks more than it is, frankly. I've played games that have had stars back in 95, the game that I mentioned, that stars with an exclamation point. That had like 1,000 stars in a huge galaxy. Okay, so here we go. Starship's ready. So we got this introduction right here, which basically is telling you that our buildings are completed and we're ready to go out into space. It gives you a little bit of just a description of the backstory. I'm not going to go read the whole thing right now. So we got a close and a dismiss button. You noticed I hit the close. The difference between the close and the dismiss, close has no effect on these news reports over here on the right. You see it says Starship ready. Choose research, and the construction completed Dizabix. So if I click on the Starship's ready, see it never went off. Now if I click dismiss, this Starship's ready will disappear. Close, clicking, it's still there. Go back to dismiss, it'll disappear. So dismiss takes off the news report. The news report for things that are getting completed will show up on the right-hand side. So I got a science beaker which says to choose research. Choose research. I've got our science leader here, Hierophant Enyip-2. Enyip-2 is just telling me that he's happy to be my subject and searching towards my research. So we'll click under next research project. So here's all the research projects in a list view. If I click up here in the tree mode, up here in the upper left, right next to it'll show the tree mode, which any of you that have played 4X games, it should be very, very familiar. Civilization, Mu 2, there's no difference in how this, it's laid out. So this is a good mode if you really want to see the list of dependencies on what you want to get, on what you need to get versus what you want to get. For example, heavy lasers, right? before I get heavy drivers, I need to have mass drivers. Close-in weapons, mass drivers. There's no other dependency there. But, for example, if I wanted to get leech warheads and fusion torpedoes, I would have to get those too before I could go to antimatter warheads. See, there's a dependency right here. Dependency. These two are going in here. I have the fusion warheads. So that shows you the list of the dependencies, and how what's needed before what you need before it, and of course it zooms out. These different symbols just are telling you the different fields that they're in. So we got this this blue atomic, symbol right here is the field of physics. The red little fire icon is for weapons, I'm guessing, maybe beam weapons. Well, we got neutron beams. We got this one is a little bit different. I'm not sure what the red star is versus they're both weapons. The red means weapons. And then what else we have? We're going to have something green that's for sociology. Well, at least down here we got wrenches. Obviously, these are construction, used for buildings, orbital constructions, bombers, heavier hulls, which get you to bigger ships. So they're showing up in the wrenches category. And then what do we have over here? A little chip, an IC chip symbol. IC chip being some kind of science developer, research, nanocomputers, industrial automation, self-organizing network, containment fields. So you got physics, the physics symbol, and then IC chips for research or systems. And then what do we got for sociology? I'm sure that there's going to be something for terraforming. Let me find that. Oh, okay, down here. Down here we got a little flower symbol, modular outposts, a flower, artificial organisms. So there's your sociology or / terraforming stuff. And then we got one more right here. We got little 3 dots. Those are going to be trade fleets, market, alien psychology. So we're talking about probably diplomacy. In this game, these three purple eyes develop up here called influence. So that's good. You're going to be used for diplomacy and influence relating to alien nations or alien contacts, dealings. So there's your main categories. I'm going to go back to the listing view. I'm going to start over the market theory because I really want to get those markets up. The markets are really important. Like I said, if you get your money running, you can buy stuff instead of building if you have enough extra cash. So I'm left-clicking on that. Market theory. It's going to cost me 200 beakers. It's in the field of sociology. Right now it's going to take 29 turns because I'm only generating +7 a turn. See up here in the very top, the toolbar shows +7, 0. My rate, it's the first turn. I've developed 0 towards it out of 200, cost of 200, and I'm getting +7 a turn. So I'll click that off. So now, what do we got left? Under the wrench, showing my construction queue. So now we're going to go to the construction queue. It's going to click to set production. So what do we got here? We got these 5 slots at the top are buildings, which are different from everything down here, which are ships or other items. So since these are buildings, they're not going to cost me any iron right here. You see that here we got metals. These don't cost metals. If I click on the mine, see the building costs it costs me 20. Machine altar costs 300. But if I click on a troop ship, it's also going to cost 64 mines, 711 gold, or 64 mines, 37 wrenches. Farm, I could buy it out for 150. It costs 50 wrenches. So now the next question is, how are these values up here determined? Well, the first thing we want to do is want to look at our people. We got right here, it says 8 million plus 60,000. The 8 million is just what I'm starting with. I'm starting the game with 8 million people. That's 8. And they grow, their growth rate is 60,000. So that's the fertility, how much they're reproducing every turn. Um, I got 8 million. Why do I have 44 construction? Well, as if you remember from the report on my people, their output was 4 wrenches, point 0.5, 0.25. Remember, they had 4.75 as a total. Four of that 4.75 are industry. That's what they are specialized at. They only have 0.25 research, and they got their average when it comes to market. So we got 4 wrenches, and we got 4 wrenches and 8 people. 4 times 8 is 32. So let's click under here to show you our wrench generation. Right down here, Zibix. That's the planet. Zibix production. Right down here, total labor output is thus 12 plus 32 equals 44. 32 comes from a 4 times 8. 8 people times their rate, their production rate was 4 is 32. So we got the plus 32. So where did the 12 come from? 12 comes from this machine altar, which is an industry, basically a factory. Okay, they call it a machine altar for this race. And the information factories develop their output is based on the idea of it being fully staffed. And basically, in layman's terms, that means you want to have the number of your colonists are working in the factory in order to develop its optimal output. How many colonists are actually, of these 8, are in the factory? Well, right offhand, I think that's probably going to be around, if my memory is correct, there's 4 of them, I think. Factories develop labor, each blah, 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 blah. 4 units of population per factory. So if I have at least 4 of them in the factory, they'll develop the full output of the factory. The full output of the factory is 12. Has one right down here. The Dizabooks production has one machine altar, which is one factory, which produces 12 wrenches, 12 output. So if it's fully staffed, the factory produces 12 wrenches. So that's where this total of 44 is coming from. I got 12 right here from the factory, 32 for my 8 guys. Again, that's 8 times 4 is 32. 32 plus 12 is 44. So that's where I'm getting my 44 wrenches. Why do I only have 1 coin? Well, look, let's click under the coin. Okay, so my coin, I got a net income of 4 minus 3 is 1. What do I got? Well, we know we got 4 because I got 8 people, and if you remember, their coin generating rate was 0.5. 0.5 times 8 is 4, so that's where this 4 is coming from. And I got a minus 3. Why is there minus 3? There is a cost. I mentioned in the earlier that there is a maintenance cost. The maintenance cost, so I'm getting a minus 3 from something, which is probably the 3 buildings. If I'm not mistaken, there are 3 buildings. Each one of these buildings is a 1 maintenance cost. Hence, that's why I'm only getting a net output of 1 right here. And we got 12. 12 iron. Why is it 12? I got 2 mines. Each one of Dizabus is 2, which produces 12. So that's telling me that each one of my mines generates 6 metals. How do they come up with 6? I believe that's determined by the output quality of the planet. Up here it says minerals normal. Normal minerals are probably going to generate 6 per mine. Right, there are different planets have different levels. They're not all normal. Normal's the average. Some of them are low minerals. Some of them are rich. I'm guessing that a rich is probably double that of normal. A rich will probably generate 12, and then the low output worlds probably generate half of that. Half of 6 is 3. But since we're in a normal world, they generate 6. I don't know for a fact if the rich world generate 12, and I'm just guessing it's probably double a normal, whereas the low mineral world's probably half that. So that's how we're coming up with the 12 minerals. And why do I have 0 food? Well, I got no farms, A, and my people don't generate any food, see, we're 0. So I could have 100 million people here and I get no food if they're all my same race. But I also don't need food, so that's good. And I've got 2 science. So where does the 2 science come from? If I click on my man, you'll see that they only generate 0.25 beakers. But I got 8 people, so what's 8 times 0.25? Basic math, 8 times 0.25 is 2. You could 0.25 is a quarter. Quarter of 8 is 2. So that's how I'm getting my low output of 2, which is very weak. Okay, blah, why? Now, up here it says I got a total of 7. Well, where's the other 0.5 coming from? Let's click on that. Okay, I'm going to click off of Dizabooks for the time being. 0.7, 0.7, 0.7, 0.7, 0.7. Researching market theory. We got +2 out of Dizabooks. Why? Okay, it is giving me a +7 for some reason. I'm not sure right offhand why I'm getting +7. But I'll figure it out. Give me a minute. Dizabooks. We got 8 people. We don't have any labs. Maybe it's because, what is this asteroid state? I got a station right here. It's weird. Special resources, debris ring, fertility high. We got no special abilities related to science on this planet. Normally, if you have a lab, it'll add to your research. Maybe there's a default that it's just the minimum is 5. I don't know. I'm guessing everybody starts off with a base 5, and then it's just add instead of a 0, maybe it's 5. I'm not sure. Maybe a commentator, one of the people can give me why there's a extra +5. Where that extra +5 is coming from. Oh, let me set I don't need to be queuing a farm. I'm going to start off with I'm going to go with a machine altar and two mines. Yes, I know I plan on building, I'm going to need a huge amount of minerals right here. And I plan on getting my labs up and going as soon as I get a planet. I'm going to come back to my labs. I'm definitely not going to be ignoring research, not with my poor research rate. But this is what I'm going to start off with. I got 3 extra slots right here. Right here shows you got a total of 6. I got 3 built, 1 industry and 2 mines, and I can build 3 more. So I can queue up to 3. We got 1 in the background as the altar, the other 2 are in the queue. How to use the queue, you just click. Right now it's grayed out because it's full, but if I left click, they're gone, and as you can see, I can put what I want to, but just by clicking on the queue. So I'm going to put up an industry and 2 mines, and that's what I'm queued up there. I'll go back on my planets. I have Dizabooks. So there's my home world. I'm kind of in the upper center. Yes, the game that I started, I was in a corner, which is a very good start. And right now I'm in a little center, so it might be a little tougher, but, I've got confidence in my abilities to overcome and adapt. So what are these other things up here? We got 100 plus 0. This right here is your the pink things are the influence. I'm not generating any influence. This is what you use this is the resource that you use to deal with your other alien races. You can think of them as like diplomacy points or something. I'm not generating any 0. There's no default. So I have to get a technology that will start generating here. Right here is my trade ships. This tells you that I have nothing in the trade, no cargo right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. This is very closely tied with the coin, with my markets. The science I've already talked about. The +7, we know where 2 is coming from. Like I said, I'm not sure where the other +5 is coming from. +12 for my mines. We click on the mines. Okay, we click off from that. Mine metal production was +12 because I got those 2 mines, each one generating 6. So that's where the +12 is coming from. 0 food. We got no farms and nobody generating any food. So that's easy enough. And then the +44, we talked about that. And then lastly up here we got which is very important, these are going to be where our money generation is. We got +4 in taxes, -3 ships, -3 buildings. So our upkeep costs are -3 for those 2 buildings. As you remember, I had an industry and 2 mines. That's 3 buildings, -3. I'm also starting off with 3 ships. Each one of those 3 takes off a coin in maintenance, so it's another -3. So I got -6, but I only got 4 coming in. As you remember, I had the 4s coming from the population. I had 8 population, but my money generating rate was only 0.5. 0.5 times 8 is 4. So that's where that taxes are coming in. Obviously, with more people, they'll generate more taxes. The yields will increase. More people, they'll get more money. I'll get more, a little bit of everything. So now that we have a good idea of what all this stuff means, we can start off. All these little sun dots right here are the other unexplored planets. We start off with a transport, an explorer, and a colony ship. Okay, the transport isn't a troop transport; it's just a people transport. So it'll be. I don't really need it right now. It's not loaded with colonists. If I wanted to get information about the transport, I click on this question mark. It gives you ship information. It says embark colonists, which means I have the ability to embark. So the contrapositive or whatever will be debark if there were people on there. There's nothing on there. If there was something on there, it will show you a little icon of what was there, a person or an alien of some other race if it was moving another race, or a tank. If it's a troop transport, you might see a tank there, or a marine or something like that. And I don't really need the transport right now. It's costing me a coin, and I'm going to click on this start trading so it goes into the trade pool. As you said, as you can see right here, I immediately went up to it went up to +5, 0. Why is that +5 when it was 0? Each trade ship has 5 cargo spaces. So one ship times 5 cargo spaces, that's where this +5 cargo is coming from. The cargo could be used if there was a planet that I needed food, for example, and another where I had an excess of food, that cargo space would be used to move food from planet to planet. It's also used from trade. But right now we only have one planet. I'm not generating any income because you basically can't trade with yourself until and you have to have at least 2 planets to trade. So there's more or less 4 ways to get income. One being taxes for your people. 2, markets, if you build markets. 3 being trade among planets. And the 4th way is going to be diplomacy, if you can set up a trade treaty with your other alien races, which eventually you'll probably do. So those are the 4 ways to generate income in this game. All right. So I'm going to click on Start Trading. I already did that. So the ship is gone now. I should only have 2. I got 2. I got my colony ship and my explorer. I'm going to send my explorer out. This range right here is basically a fuel range. It's some people that, I read some of the other videos that people made. They didn't understand what this was. You can look at it as how far your fuel radius is from your sources of fuel. If this was a World War II type game, that would be the range that your planes can fly from the airfield. So that's what they are. The range can be affected by building, for example, if I build an outpost or colonize a planet on a planet, you can look at that as a fuel node. Then that'll establish another area where the range can go out, and slowly, over time, I can go to these other planets. Also, there are technologies which allow you to increase the range. If I click on the Explorer ship information, you can see that it has a warp lane amplifier. I don't know why it's called the warp lane amplifier. It's not really so intuitive. I would have just called it a fuel cell. So this is giving this ship a little bigger range than any other ship. Ships which have this in a slot can have a wider range. Of course, the cost is you got to put it in a slot, whereas I could have put armor or something else. And it's actually an armed scout. It's got anti-missiles. Why it has anti-missiles? It doesn't have missiles, but it has anti. So it's purely defensive. And of course, I could, if I wanted to redesign this ship or refit it, I could do that. But at this point in the game, it's pointless because there's no techs have been developed, and I just don't really need to worry about that at this point in the game. So I'm going to click on it. It's highlighted, and I'm going to go out here somewhere. This is insufficient range. It's just this one is on the edge of my, but it's just slightly out. This one's out. This one's in. It's a yellow star, a blue star, and a orange star. I'm going to go to the yellow star because supposedly yellow stars have slightly better worlds, although I haven't really noticed that in this game. Okay, so now I'm ready to click end turn. Right now you can see it's starting at 1100. So this is the first game. I've scheduled this guy to go out. His ETA is 3. So the estimated time of arrival is 3 turns. How far does it move? It's, for exactly how far this ship can move in a turn. Well, let me click on here. Go to the colony. Go to the colony ship. It also has a warp lane amplifier. Extends the strategic range by a 1 parsec. Well, that's exactly what it gives you 1 parsec, so 1 extra parsec above the range. By the way, a parsec is a parallax per arc second. For those of you that didn't know that, a parallax per arc second, that's basically it's an astronomical measurement for very vast distances. It's telling you what there's a slight shift in the light based upon movement of distant objects, and that's how they use to measure. That's what the system is used to measure the far away objects like stars. And the parsec has a value. It's a value of something like 3.2 light years, whereas a light year is 1 light year is a distance measurement. Of those of you that should know that, which is roughly 9.4 trillion kilometers, about 6 million miles. So 3 parsecs, I'm sick. This is about 18 trillion. Sorry, not trillion, not million. Trillion and not million. 18 trillion miles. Anyway, so, and it has a nuclear reactor. Every ship has got to have a reactor to provide power. Maneuvering engines, they all require engines to move. The health is just telling you that there's no damage right now. If it takes damage, the health will decrease. So let's click off from that. Right now I'm setting it up for the planetary report. It's showing over here in the left, all the way to the left, Zibix, which is my home planet, and it's building a machine altar. It's telling you what the resources are that it's producing per turn, and it's 8, because I got 8 million people there. 8 million tinkers are my people. So let's click the first turn. Turn 1. Takes a little bit of time to generate the turn. It's a little bit longer because, like I said, I started with a huge map, and that's fine with me. I don't mind that it takes a little bit longer. Nothing happened. There's no news report. So I'm 2 turns away from the star. Click it again. Let another turn generate. You can see that I'm at -1. That's because I got 4 -5 instead of -6 because I cashed in that ship. Once I colonize a world, I should start generating trade. And that'll get me out of being in the red. I really don't like being in the red. So what do we got? Native inhabitants. We have detected signs of life in the Shidar system. Woohoo! So what do we got here? Let's close. Okay, close. Oh, mineral Shidar, please. Mineral poor. Boo-hoo. Yesterday I started this game and the first planet I found was mineral rich. Wouldn't you know it? Okay, so what do we got? Let's click on Shidar. Wow, it is a nice planet, though. Okay, so right here, we got these numbers at the top. If you notice that this one right here is grayed out, that means that it is not colonizable. If it's grayed out, I can't colonize it. I can build an outpost. You can put an outpost anywhere, even if it's not colonizable. Difference between an outpost and a colony, a flat-out colony will start generating people. I can build buildings there. An outpost won't do that. But an outpost can be a node for fuel purposes in order to, like I mentioned, if I was to build there, then my range would extend, allowing me to explore. That's a very good thing. Outposts are also much cheaper than colony ships. This is a fairly good planet. It's got a population of 18. That's its total population. Anything over 10 in my book is good. So we got an 18 and a 12 here, and they're both colonizable. I got this star, this little exclamation point. If I hover over it, it shows it has a native population. So click on the question mark to view the planet. What do we got? Pell. Pell. Okay, so it's a garden world. It's large. It's got normal minerals. Its fertility is high. The fertility of high tells me that it's generates. If I put farm there, it's very good. So each one of these things is just basically 3 levels. 3 levels of minerals, 3 levels of fertility. High, normal, basically high, normal, and low. I'm not really going to need, if I colonize this world, I'm not really going to need much of any farms here. But these people, these are the native inhabitants, they will probably need some amount of food. Right now, their population is 3 million out of 18. So it's capped at 18, and there's 3 on the planet now, and it's these things, these plant people. It's a garden world, so we got the Venus flytrap people. I don't know what they are. Garden worlds. So this would be a good world to have because I get 18. I could put a lot of industry in there. They would all be filled out, fully staffed. And I also got 6 slots to put buildings. That's good. I could put a lot of people there with 6 slots. That's a very good planet. I also got this other planet. What do we got here? Sheet R3 is an arid planet, mineral poor, special resource artifacts. Ooh, yes, that is very good. Artifacts. Artifacts worlds give you +2 per lab. So if I was to build a bunch of labs here, each lab would get an additional +2 per lab. So that's clearly going to be I'm going to try to develop this planet as a lab world and get my research up. I would maximize my gains for a lab, so that's exactly what I want to do on this planet. Whereas this other planet, I'm going to build it. I want it to be a production planet. Okay, so what else do we have here? We know we got the native inhabitants. It doesn't really give me any information exactly about the native inhabitants as far as their abilities. I won't know that until it's colonized. Artifacts on Sheeter 3, we know that, and then we got a mineral poor planet. Okay, so this is a very good system. It's a good system, and I'm going to send my colony ship there. By the way, you don't want to send. You have the ability to send your colony ships out or other ships out. I would highly not recommend sending them out to a planet that's not developed because there are a lot of bad things on here. There's pirates, there are space monsters. And colony ships cannot retreat. Neither can asteroid or outpost ships. They'll be destroyed. Scouts, however, have the ability to automatically retreat, which is a good thing. You know, sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. So now I'm going to send out my exploration ship. I'm going to go to this blue giant 2 turns. See what's happening. Click the next turn. All right, so these are ETA 1 from there, ETA 2 from these people. Click the turn again. What do we got? Okay, we found Difta. Ooh, woo, what do we got over here? We got these creepy little people over here are moving towards one of my planets. I consider the entire group of planets here to be my planets. These other people are squatting in my backyard, and that's basically unacceptable. Eventually I'm going to have to dispose of them. After all, it is a 4X game, and one of those X's are exterminate. They're going to, eventually they're going to have to go down. I don't know where they are, how strong they are, but I can tell just from I've played this few games that these are orphan. These are the bug people that are in Cold Worlds. As you remember, they were the science-generating people. They had the extra +1 in science. Although I'm not within range of medium yet, if they were in my range of scanning range, there'll be a pop-up showing that we've met them. We haven't met them yet, even though I can see their ship. Oh, by the way, Difta. So we got an eye right here that shows that I'm explored this system. If I click on it, it shows that there's actually 3 planets. We got this little planet down here, whatever this is, Difta 3, cannot be colonized. It's an ice ball, tiny. It's, wow, it doesn't even have any slots, probably because I can't colonize it. What else do we got? We got this planet. Well, this planet has 3 spots. It's an ice ball, small, low, no, cold. It would probably be good for these people, though. These bugs are like the cold planet, so. And then it's got a gas giant. Gas giant can't be colonized. But like I said, I can't put an outpost there. That would be a good place for an outpost eventually. So we'll take my explorer out again. We'll go over here to this unexploded orange star. 3 turns. And click turn. Okay, settlers arrived at Shidar. On which planet am I going to go first? We're going to colonize the big planet first. And then eventually I'm going to use this planet to colonize this planet and build a lab world. So that's my plan. This planet is going to be a mining and industry world, and this is going to be my lab world. So we'll colonize. I click colonize. Yes! We colonized Pell, and there was much rejoicing. Yay! All right, I'm not sure how happy the carnivorous plants are, though. We'll find out about that. So we got a new colony on Pell. So this is, it's just giving me some advice. This guy's giving me, Primac Index 3-20 is giving me advice. So we'll close. So right here it says we colonized Pell. That's the news report. We'll click on it. Okay, that is the, I can click on dismiss, but I can also get to it by left-clicking on Shidar, click on the planet. Okay, so now we can find out what these people are, these plant people. So what do we got here? We got 5-2. That's what the output of the planet is right as of right now after I chop my 1 million people. So as you can see, I got 1 million of my people, tinkers, are on the planet, and we got 3 million of these people. These people generate plus 75,000 per turn for their reproductive rate, and my people are only 10,000 per turn under normal conditions. And these plants, okay, so what do we got? Oh, this is the special ability of the tinker race. They can harmonize races. This ability, that's kind of like in Star Trek where you have the Borg assimilate. You have been assimilated. Well, they harmonize. For some reason, the plant people can't be harmonized. That's kind of a bummer. Can't be applies to Pell. I don't know why. Maybe it's just temporary. I don't know. But the Pell generate 0.5 coins, 0.5 research. I mean, 0.5 wrenches on 1 research. They're a little bit better on research than my. Oh, I should say a lot better. I'm 0.25. They're 1. So you can see I got 3 beakers up here. That's because each of these 3 million, you got 3 million people. That's 3. 3 times 1 is 3. And as far as industry, my one guy is generating 4, as you remember. They got 3 guys each generating 0.5. So that's what 3 times 0.5 is 1.5. 1.5 plus 4 is 5.5, and it's 5. So they obviously rounded the 0.5 down. 5.5 rounded down to 5, and we got 2 gold. So my guy is as you remember has 0.5 gold. I got 1. 1 times 0.5 is 0.5, and these guys are 3. 3 times 0.5 is 1.5. So we got 1.5 plus 0.5 is 2, and that's where the 2 gold. That's the taxes that I'm getting from the planet. So that's where all these numbers are coming from, and nobody's generating food. Why don't they? These plants don't generate food either. That's interesting. Maybe they don't need food. Yeah, well, they're plants, duh. They're photosynthetic, so that probably means they don't need food. Cecil, friendly pacifist. Well, they're not carnivorous plants. And if they're pacifists, they're probably a big, I don't know, a lily, water lily or something. Friendly Cecil, they don't move. probably photosynthetic, so they don't need food. That's good, so I don't have to worry about building farms here at all. Okay, they got a high growth rate, base growth rate, so that's just telling you that. So if these pels start growing, that's okay. I mean, they're not quite as their generation isn't good as overall isn't as good as mine. My one person generates, as you remember, 4.75, whereas their total is 1 + 0.5 is 2. 4.75 versus 2. My guys do a lot better. The biggest difference being in the production, but they are better at science, so that's good. So if I have some of these people generating science in addition to mine, I can live with that, even if their overall yield rating is lower. So what do we want to? I'm going to click on production. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build a machine altar, and it's going to take 45 turns. Wow. Why does it take so long? Well, I'm only generating 5 a turn, and the cost is 225, which 5 times 45 is probably 225, right? 5 times 45 equals 225. Yep, that's where it is. But I'll probably have a much higher. I'm going to probably be able to buy this out. Also, my people will probably grow. They'll probably grow before this time, which will reduce it further. I don't plan on waiting 45 turns for this to grow. I need to get this sooner. So anyway, we'll just start with the factory, the machine altar factory going here. I'm not worried about right. Eventually, I'm going to colonize this land. That's where this, as you can see, the colonize sheeter 3 option is coming up. So at some point, I can do this. It's easier. It's better to use the planet to colonize another planet in the system instead of building a colony ship to do it. Colony ships are much more expensive. They're big, expensive. Any of you people that played Moo 2 will remember that the colony ships are really expensive in comparison to most other ships. Okay, so now that we got Pell under our belt, we can go on to building the machine altar. Zibbix is almost done with my other machine altar. Got 1 turn left. Woohoo! I'll have the second lab that'll boost this production. Well, as you can see, it went up. It went up to 4.45. Remember, it's 44 earlier, probably because my growth. I'm up to 8.3. Before I had a straight 8, so there's a little bit of a fraction going on there. 8.3. 8.3 times 4 is that's going to be an additional 1 right there. Well, let's see exactly what it is. 8.3 times 4. What is that? 8.3 times 4 is 33. Yeah, it did go. It went up from 32 to 33. As you remember, it was 32 before, now it's 33. So the growth the small amount of growth contributed another 1 to my industry, which is good. All right, so let's go through another turn. Click on the turn and see if we can get to this place. All right, with the double wrenches. All right, so you see right here where it has, sometimes there'll be 2 wrenches. You'll see a circle with 2 wrenches. Other times you'll see a circle with 1. If you circle with 2 wrenches, that just means you have an item queued in the pool, so it automatically goes to the next item. If there was 1 wrench, that would mean that it's completely finished and you'd have to set production. So I don't have to worry about setting production because I had the other thing queued. Remember, I queued up some mines. Okay, so and that alien, the Orthan ship disappeared. Well, we know that it went down here somewhere. It just went outside of my scanning range. See if I click on my radius. Well, it's not letting me show my radius right now, but well, anyways, you remember my radius didn't include. It wasn't quite on this system, so that's why I'm not seeing them. Click on the turn. All right, so we found an Aldebaran. What do we got? Ooh, derelict craft. We have located a derelict object in the Aldebaran system. An abandoned blah, 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 vessel drifting. So we can study it plus 80, scrap it plus 250. Okay, so we're only generating. I'm much more inclined to go with the 80 research versus the 250 gold. Although it's really a toss-up. I'm only generating 10 research versus... Well, right now my gold finally went in the plus. And so did my research because of those those extra pelt. Remember, I had +7. It's up to +10 now. So that was probably the 3 from those plant people that each one of them had a 1, which is good. But I am, what do I want? Do I want to study it, scrap it, study it, scrap it? If I study it, I get +80 beakers. If I scrap it, I get +250 gold. Well, let me think about that. Let me close this for a minute. Closes. Let me check out my planet. How far am I from this construction? I need 645. If I put 250 here, that'll be 400. 400. That'll take a significant bite off of pushing this 43 turns down. And remember, eventually I wanted to colonize this planet and build labs. It's the second planet to build labs. So I actually think the wiser move would be to take the money, and when I get could then use that money to rush build this building, so I don't have to wait a full 43 turns. So that's going to be the plan there. Let me go there. Scrap it. All right, so what do we got? We got more native inhabitants in the Aldebaran. What do we got? Okay, so what do we got? Blah, blah, blah. Clicking on Aldebaran right here. Oh, it is mineral rich. Wow. There's a mineral rich world. Yes. That's a good thing. And it is native. So let's click on the planet. So we got these Yetis right here. These Yetis probably going to need food. Can't tell exactly what their special abilities are. They're going to have some kind of yield. It's probably not going to be as good as my own race. It's a glacier world, large, rich, mineral rich. That means I want to build mines there. That's going to be my mining world. And it's cold, normal, this other stuff. It can put up a population of 14. Very good. So eventually I want to get Al Gore. Right now I'm not able to. I would have to build a colony ship to get to Al Gore. And there are 2 other planets. They're not colonized. You can see the numbers are grayed out. But this one's a 6, fairly large planet. This one's a 3. Don't think there's anything special. Normal, low, cold, nothing here. What about this other planet? Medium, normal, inhospitable, fertility. So that probably means no farms at all. That's fine. I don't need farms anyway. So, what do we got now? There's nothing at Difta, but Aldebaran, I'm going to want to build something eventually at Aldebaran when I get my next transport. Click on the Explorer. I don't think I can go anywhere right now. Unexplored. They're all insufficient range, aren't they? Insufficient range. That's a real drag. Everything's just not quite in my scanning range. But as you can see, by the way, you can see that there are 2 overlapping circles here. That's because when I colonized Shidar, it did push out the fuel range out here. Unfortunately, it just didn't quite go far enough to get these 3 red stars, which was a real drag. So in order for me to get those stars, I'm going to have to put something at Difta and Aldebaran, whether they're a colony module or an outpost of some kind. And so really, there's nothing I can't really do anything with my little explorer. I can't go anywhere. Once I do build one at Difta, I'll probably be able to go to this red planet right here. And if I colonize Aldebaran, I'll probably be able to go here and maybe to this spot. So I might be able to get these 3 right here once I get my next ship. But at least I got a good planet. Even though I've only been able to go to the 4, I got 2 really good planets, or I should say 3. I got 2 in the Shidar system and 1 in Aldebaran. Okay, well, let's see. Oh, one thing I want to talk about right now about the market. This is important. There were some people in one of the other videos I watched that didn't really understand how how the fleet thing is and where the money goes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. You can see that I put one trade ship This is the trade ship that I dumped into the fleet networks. That's where the +5. Now it's, before it was /0, now it's /10. So what that means is I now have 10. Remember, this is showing, it's not showing ships, it's showing cargo space. So if I want to translate this to ships, it would be each trade ship has 5 cargo spaces. So we'll divide this by 5. If I divided those by 5, it would be +1/2, right? Because 5 divided by 5 is 1, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So that would be 1 ship and 2 towards the that are possible towards a trade network. In other words, what it's saying is I can build 1 more ship, since I can go up to 10. That'll give me more money in trade. I got 5. So let's go back to looking at this in terms of cargo space. 5 and 10. 5. I got 5. I'm getting +5. So what it's saying is you have 1 cargo and 1 ship in the trade pool generating 5 cargo space. 0 is needed to transport food. None of my people needed food, so I'm not wasting any of my cargo capacity moving food to planets that are starving. The remaining 5 earn +5 through trade. 5 of 10 available trade routes are active. So since I have that 1 ship generating 5 cargo space, none of the cargo space needed for food, all 5 of it can generate money. That's so I'm getting +5. If I build another cargo ship, I would actually get +10 because I could go up to +10. I could have up to two trade routes +10 total. So now you can see I'm no longer in the red. Remember, before I was at -1. So I got my +6 through the trade, +5 through trade, +6 through my taxes. My taxes went up because I colonized Pell, remember, and I'm getting some additional money from those inhabitants. So I'm getting a total of +11 from taxes of trade, -1 ship, -4 for buildings. I now have 4 buildings because I finished another building in Zibix, so there's 4 buildings there, which is -4. And I've only got 1 ship in the game. I got my explorer is the only ship. I put the trader in the trade pool, and my colony ship colonized. So of the 3 ships that I started out with, I only have 1 left. But it's only -1 for upkeep costs too, so that's a good thing. So I'm getting +11 -4 for the buildings. 1 for the ship is -5. +11 -5 is +6. So that's where the +6 is coming from. And of course, if I build markets, they'll give me additional money. Okay, so now that I covered that, so you can also see right here, fleet report is 1. That's telling me that I only have my 1 ship here. If I had 30 ships, it would give me a report of where all these ships are right now. Right, as you can see right here, it says at Aldebaran idle. It's idle because I got nowhere to move. Everything's out of range, so it's pointless to move anywhere. I'll just leave it there. I suppose I could move it back to my systems, but why not? I mean, why versus why not? I'll just leave that there. You can see right here, still got my +12 ore from my 2 mines. And my science went up, as I noted before. I had 7. I got those 3 Pell people, so it's gone up to 10. As I can see, +3 Pell, +2 Zibix. So that's what all this stuff up here means. And its star date 1108. It started at 1100, if you remember. It's 8. So I'm 8 turns in the game, and I think that's a good point. I actually think this video for my first video has went quite a long time. I haven't been keeping track of, but this would be a good point to call it. To reach a stopping point for this video before I make the other ones. I did a lot of explanation, on this, and that's really what I wanted to do. I really wanted to explain everything about the game, what's going into the strategy, what my goals are. Of course, I want to win, and I plan on building using the strengths of the tinkers, which are going to be mines and industry, and I'm going to make up for my lack of science by building labs, using some of that industry to build labs, not having to waste it on food. So that's where their strength comes in, and I'm going to hopefully be able to use that as the game goes on. So I'll get ready to reach a stopping point right now. I'm going to go back to the windowize mode, which is under the options. Click under the options, If I click on the full screen mode and take the bullet off, it'll go to the winnowized mode. So, as you can see now that I went back to the winnowized mode, and I'm going to go to the OBS, and I will stop recording here until next time. Everybody take it easy and keep on gaming. It's Corporal Kindle signing off. Bye.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor?